Hello and welcome back to Talkin Pitch Side. I am PJ with my co-host Tony, back with another episode of MLS News and Notes, along with some US men's national team news. Because Tony, the World Cup is coming. We are in full gear. I feel like everyone's kind of hitting that point where you're really noticing guys that are making moves and statements in club play right now, and it's all starting to get pretty real. Like we're about to hit that point where there's about to be the playoffs for the World Cup here soon for the countries in March. And of course, we're going to have that camp in March. It's going to be really a tell all for everybody, but it's getting real. It's getting intense, and I'm all here for it.
Oh yeah, I mean, it feels so far away, but the reality is it's incredibly close. And I think when that March window hits, we're gonna have the fever. We're gonna want to just jump straight towards June. I was just today, actually, I was looking at, okay, when are the USA games? What are my plans going to be on these days? Like, already getting that all lined out and figured out. Maybe already going to put in a little PTO in for that Friday game that's at 3 o'clock. I don't know, or maybe it's a half day. We'll figure it out. But
late arrival for the 9 p.m., 10 p.m. start times in the World Cup in June for us Eastern time folks. So
yes,
we're getting ready for it. But as you can tell, we did survive the winter storm. So after you heard our monologue at the start of last episode, we did survive that. It was probably softer than people were calling for. Still a good amount. Ohio, I think Cincinnati got hit the least, honestly. Columbus got hit a lot worse than we did here in Ohio. I know that from what people were saying. They didn't have school all week this week and things like that. So
yeah, I mean, and here too, just for the temperatures.
Yeah.
That's
it's cold. It's not going anywhere. That's the worst part. When it snows a foot and then you're just stuck with it because it's -3 outside this morning when I was going to take my daughter to daycare. So that's always fun.
Yeah, I've got a smart alarm clock, and I always ask it every morning when I'm getting dressed and stuff, hey, what's the weather today? So I know what I'm getting. And I think it was like Tuesday. It said, right now it's -6.
Yeah, you're like,
I was like, that never heard it say that. Like, that is unreal. That is fake. You're lying. And then I picked up my phone and checked, and I was like, no, right now it is -6.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
So for about 60% of the country that did get hit, we're all with you because there was a brutal storm. A lot of the southern states, I know, they're not prepped like Ohio is, so it was a little bit rough there for a couple days. But I think we're all kind of clearing out for the most part. But let's get into what people are here for, Tony. Let's talk about the good stuff. We have a couple big transfers that happened this week. One of which, we'll start with the biggest one. Alex Freeman is going to Villarreal La Liga. Huge move for Alex Freeman. Let's start with that. You give the kid his flowers. 12 months ago, wasn't even seen as a starting player on Orlando, and in a year has completely transformed his view in the world of soccer. From a club perspective and a national team perspective, we know he went from not even on the radar for the national team to not only making the World Cup roster, now people are having the debate if this guy should start in some capacity in a World Cup game. And he's now being, of course, complimented that with a move to Villarreal. A massive club, a Champions League club, a club that is consistently playing for the biggest trophies in the world and playing one of the biggest leagues in the world. And this move has a lot of layers to it. I'm sure you'll say your parts about it.
Yeah.
He is not on a long-term deal with Orlando. So that was an issue that was arising, and they did not get a contract done last year. So, who would have thought going last year that they needed to get a contract done? And so they kind of needed to sell him now to a degree, because if he would have walked for free after this year, it would have been a disaster for Orlando. So good on him for allowing them to do that and making this move. Villarreal also probably could have just been like, we'll wait, because if he goes on free, we'll be able to get him then. But they're having some injury concerns, and this is a move Villarreal only makes if they need him to play, like right this second. And that's the hope, I think, if you're an Alex Freeman US men's national team fan, is that he's going to get some playing time here for Villarreal. I think he wouldn't have necessarily made this move if he wasn't going to, because of the World Cup coming up, and he wants to be able to play for that. So I think, all in all, huge move. They're going to get a sell-on clause, because if this trajectory keeps going up and he moves on for Villarreal, we could be looking at some big money coming back to Orlando in the long run. I think they wish they would have had a deal done because I think they probably could have held him until the World Cup and made a little bit more money here up front. But I think smart of them to get the job done now. They had a good opportunity. They're doing right by the player, doing right by the club. And I think this is a perfect move for Alex in his career.
Absolutely. There's a lot to talk about here. I think the first thing I want to say is kind of from a U.S. men's national team perspective, because, that's what you're talking about. It's on the top of my mind. For Alex Freeman, I mean, he would play every game that he'd be able to at Orlando. Like that was safe. And going to Villarreal is actually, it feels like, okay, Big Five league, this is scary. And to your point, I don't know how much he's being brought in and the timing of that says anything about how much he's going to play. But Villarreal is a very young player-friendly club. I read about them a little bit when I saw this move come through, and I think just in this 25-26 season alone, they've promoted like 8 or 9 academy players that have gotten minutes for the senior team at Villarreal. So they really like their young players. I've also read too that it seems like a really good fit with Alex Freeman and who he is. He sits back as a right back. You wouldn't call him necessarily a wing back because you can trust him a little bit in isolation and defending, both out wide and centrally. But then you can also, Villarreal likes to use their outside backs, having the ball, carrying it up. And that's one strength that we know that Alex Freeman carries as well. So there's a lot of reasons to really like this from a U.S. men's national team perspective, because it does seem like a good fit where he's going to get a real chance, a real opportunity, and at very high level. And, to your point, this could be, a really big stepping stone for him, which also I love that we're talking about an American player and a La Liga club being a stepping stone. That's that feels good. But yeah, no, it's a really exciting move for him. I think it makes a ton of sense. I think it's from a personal side, like everybody right now only has the next 6 months on their mind as far as how do we get to the World Cup and be in the best form we can be. And I think in a good way, it's a gamble. Like it's an aggressive move because of what I just said. Like he had guaranteed minutes at Orlando. They would play him game in and game out. So moving, to get higher experience like that, sneak in, maybe a dozen games or so at La Liga in the mix with all the U.S. men's national team camp stuff that he'll probably get invited to. That's really stepping up his level to be ready for this World Cup. And, it's going to be tough to see if he makes it around Dest. That's his, main competitor there when it comes to the actual depth chart. But either way, say he does decent, plays every other game, kind of middle of the bag. I would trust him to come on and get some minutes if Dest is running out of gas. Maybe he picks up a knock. Like I don't see necessarily Freeman being a liability with this trajectory he's on. And I also think that this trajectory is the reason why I don't really blame Orlando for the contract situation, because he was just starting to really play with the senior team last season and just exploded onto the scene. So nobody would have been able to predict how well he's shot up, including the people in Orlando. So I get how it got to this point. I think it's really smart. I think they got a good fee on him too. It was $4 million, I believe. Doesn't mean anything. Transfer Market said he was worth like 2.5. So, it seems like they are rounding up. I mean, obviously that gets adjusted all the time, and Transfer Market's not letter of the law, but it does seem like it's a decent value for what it is. And to your point too, slapping on the sell-on clauses with a kid his age, like that could add up to a lot more too. So a lot of things to like, I think, from all the perspectives that we hold. The worst perspective that we haven't talked about yet is Orlando's. I don't know if they have a true right back on their team right now anymore. And that's,
I think they just signed one like half an hour ago. So
all right, I'm not up to.
Let me double check that while you still go. Yeah. But it's a move that I think you've got to respect. And I know Poch spoke about it today in this press conference and said that he has no concerns about this move for him. Like he trusts that this is a great move for him and he thinks it's the right move. Good. So yeah. I think it's good to hear that if you're him from the manager in terms of the World Cup, which is good. But I do think they are signing it's a center back. Never mind, it wasn't a right back. It was another center back.
He can play right back too. Because I mean, otherwise, I don't know. You can maybe put Brekalo, have him play right back instead of left back.
They would need. They're going to need to get another one.
Yeah, it's too thin over there, and not. I mean, like we're
was
already
thin.
in preseason.
It was thin with Freeman. Like the depth
Correct.
behind him was nothing.
Correct.
So,
There wasn't really anyone.
yeah.
So that's a big gaping hole for Orlando right now. Definitely one to watch, especially with kind of like you mentioned pre-show. Like we only have a few days left in this offseason for or this winter window for MLS teams to make these final signings, and they're really hurting there. So that's definitely a thing to watch there. And I think they're getting the right number on this, but when it comes to actual sporting sense now, Orlando's the loser in this situation at the moment.
Yeah, I have a feeling the international window closes on, I think, is it Monday? I think is what it is, or one of these
like 4
days.
or 5 days from now.
So I would imagine the move they're gonna make for a right back is gonna be an interleague, like in our league. Like I think they're gonna go probably get a depth position from someone's roster and compensate them rightly for it. And I think that's just the type of move they can get away with because I think the roster around that position is really solid. I think it's one of the better rosters that Orlando's had in a while, honestly. So I'm interested to see what they go in that route. But I think we just gotta compliment Alex Freeman a ton. These are moves that did not happen in the MLS. Not even that long ago. You didn't see guys go straight from the MLS to the La Liga. So I think it's cool to see. It's cool to see a U.S. talent skyrocket as fast as he did over this past year. And yes, he's going to compete with Dest, of course, for the right back position. We also saw him at that right center back position and thrive in that Uruguay game at the end of the window. So it's going to be interesting. I had a discussion with some people off camera, and a lot of people think that could be a spot where he could fit into especially in these games, Tony, in the group stage, where there's games we're going to be on the front foot probably more than not. And
Sure.
having that third center back be a guy like Alex Freeman, like you saw in the Uruguay game, where because Dest really is a liability defensively at times, where you can say, hey, these two can really work off each other and just like watch each other's back and basically be like two fullbacks playing right next to each other, might actually work in our favor in terms of attack and what we can do on attack. So I'm interested to see what March looks like because he experimented that with Freeman and it went really well. So I'm interested because no one has really claimed that right center back position for the national team. It's really at this point, in my mind, it's Chris Richards, Tim Ream are probably the 1-2 right now. And then that third spot has been fluctuating nonstop. Miles Robinson's been in there sometimes. You've seen Mark McKenzie in there. But none of them have gone in there and looked amazing. And Alex Freeman, like you said, does enough defensively where I think if you're playing a team where you feel you're going to be on the front foot, which is only going to happen in that group stage,
right?
You could use that to your advantage. So it'll be interesting to see what they do because I think that's a possibility. I mean, you saw it. They did it.
Yeah, and he's a sneaky 6 foot too. I don't know if people realize this.
He's a big guy.
Like, he doesn't necessarily look all that tall
he was
when you're watching him.
He was a forward in his youth days. I think he played striker in his youth days coming up, and someone was like, hey, we just need someone to play right back today because the guy was hurt, and he went and played right back, and it has now turned into this. So it's funny how it all works that way, but I think that's where, of course, that attacking sense, it's really helpful to have a guy like that and in your fullback as a wing back, but he's a big guy and was intended not to be a fullback when his career began. So
I mean, he's an NFL offspring, right? So of course he's gonna. We got to give that credit. Nobody's mentioned this before. I did the deep digging, and his dad won a Super Bowl. I'm not sure if you've heard, but that's here.
Amazing.
That's
amazing.
Boots on the ground journalism right here.
Yeah.
You heard it here
there
first.
You go.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on from that. Congrats to Alex, and good on Orlando for making right on the player as well. Real Salt Lake makes a move, Tony. They signed a new DP forward from Lens. We talked about this in the pre-show. Let's preface. Me and Tony aren't experts on names. So what did we land on? I think it's Morgan.
Morgan. We're just calling him Morgan.
We're just going to call him Morgan. From Lens, new DP forward. Salt Lake needs attack. They need something to supplement with Diego Luna. They made some moves at the end of last year, of course, to bring some guys to hopefully fill that, and that didn't really work out. I think if I'm a Salt Lake fan, you just got to tell yourself, we can't miss again on someone, right? Like, this is one of these have to hit. So I think it was needed. It's a $5 million deal. It's not cheap. It is a guy who comes from Lens. I mean, that's a competitive league that's bigger than the MLS, so you're hoping that he comes in and has the pedigree to command that forward position. I think Tom's tweet said he does play off the right as well as a winger at times, so he has that flexibility. I think that they need this to work. It's a team that, when you're a team like Salt Lake right now, you need to hit on your DPs. And I think that's just the bottom line with him. And I think they need him to be at least like a 10 to 15 goal scorer this season for them to really be competitive in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I agree. They need a lot out of him. Obviously, he's replacing DP Rowan Cruz, which that hopefully is an upgrade, because Rowan Cruz really left a lot on the table for being a designated player in this league. But all of that to say, I'm going to go for it. I think Gulavogi is what I'm going to land on.
Okay.
Morgan Gulavogi. I think Gulavogi, again, we don't know all this much about him. We're barely learning his name. Comes from League One, from Lens. But the quick numbers that pop up to me just looking at his profile and stuff is that he is really, really good at aerial duels won and defensive contributions. So, basically as a forward, getting up, causing problems for other teams, being physical, winning balls. And with the RSL system, which will likely be kind of a 3-back / 5-back, whatever you want to call it, they'll use wing backs and kind of go 2 strikers. I expect him to be the attacking mid / second striker underneath Olatunji. There's some crazy names on this RSL team. And, probably win a lot of those long balls, hold up play, that kind of thing. And hopefully create, I think is the main thing, is that, you're looking at him, right? He's your second striker. He's going to come in late. He's going to get some shots. Like, you need him to score as well. But I think share a little bit of the load as well, just with the, laying off to teammates, holding up the ball, allowing RSL to get some possession upfield. So I think that's the hope with him. Like you said, that's a big hope for a $5 million price tag, especially at a place like RSL, who is not breaking the bank by any means when it comes to their transfers. This is it's not the record fee, but it's about up there. So that's what we're looking at. I think that it's an improvement. It's got to be. There's no way it's not, right? Knock on wood. But I like the move. They're spending money, and that's what I think you can get excited about. This guy came from a Big 5 league. It's not like Lens is a complete laughing stock. I know League One gets bad credit sometimes, but Bouanga's a League One product too, and look at him. Completely apples and oranges, but I'm not just saying we can't laugh at that league. We can't laugh at that team. There is enough pedigree here that this has the bones to work.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think, Lens is in second place in Ligue 1 right now. Like, that's how good they've been. So, this is probably a situation where he's just not getting the playing time that he wants, which is okay.
Looks like mostly
and
bench
you're playing
appearances
for a team that's doing that well. It's not surprising at times. So, I think this is I think it's a good move. Of course, we need to see him. We can self-admittedly say we don't watch much of Ligue 1, so I think I'm excited to see how this all works out. And a guy who's going to get up and win duels is good when you've got a guy like Diego Luna putting in service to you. So I think this combination, at least till the World Cup, is a good one. And that'll be a good transition, Tony, because the next thing I wanted to talk about was Diego Luna.
Yeah.
Reporting Tom's putting out there, La Liga sides, more La Liga, are reaching out and trying to get a price tag on what it's going to cost to get him. They're smartly holding firm in terms of saying we're going to wait till after the World Cup, because I think his stock will only go up. I think we're both on the same page there. I think he's going to do great in the MLS until then, and I think being in the World Cup and possibly making an impact can only increase his value. So I think this is a smart move to hold him until summer. I think that's probably what he wants anyways, in terms of to make sure he makes that roster. So I think smart move, and I'm excited to see, because I think he's going to get that big move after the World Cup. We talked about it, I think, last episode. He's due, and it's going to happen. And it'd be cool to see him go to La Liga, like we talked about it. Seeing U.S. national team young players making their first move straight to La Liga is encouraging for the MLS system and the U.S. men's national team youth system, and how we're building guys up.
Yeah, I think that this is the other side of what could have played out with Freeman is, this is the play it safe. You're getting minutes here. You're comfortable here. And, a lot of this is going to be played close to your hometown. USA is staying West Coast, for their group stage games. So I think that there is intentionality with that. Like I said, I think a lot of people are laser focused on what's best for them to get themselves into this World Cup competition. And for Luna, it seems to be, stay with RSL. And I'm impressed that RSL is able to hold on to him this long. And I think it's smart. It seems like there's succession planning in place. I really think that Gulavogi is a big part of that too. Because, his main thing was right wing, but he can also play attacking mid. And, when Luna leaves, then maybe you push Gulavogi back. You got like Xavier Gozo, also, not a drop dead name at striker, but someone we've seen on a score sheet before for RSL. So I think there are options there. Kind of once Luna leaves, they're planning for that. They're ready for that. So it seems smart. It seems wise. The only reason it wouldn't be is if he didn't make that roster. But I think Pochettino has shown early on, like Luna's been the guy that he's made an example out of to everybody else to say like, this dude broke his nose in a game and he's right back out there, big balls. I like this guy. Luna's been kind of a star child for Pochettino. So I have a hard time imagining that he wouldn't sneak in, but I guess you never know. We'll see how March goes.
Yeah, it's if you had to put a gun to my head and ask me right now, I'd say he'd make the roster, but I think he is probably one of the last few in that last group, and maybe last right now, just because I think the emergence of Brendan Aronson, I've talked about that, and some other guys that are playing well could hurt his chances. So I think he'll make it. I think that there's enough depth spots on this roster that he's going to pick a guy like Diego Luna who's played passionately and he's made an example out of over maybe someone else who hasn't. So
yeah,
I think we're both pretty sure he'll make that roster, and I'm sure he'll be there in that March camp. Moving on here, we have another DP signing, NYCFC signing Musasia from Schalke. They were in the German second tier, so remember they did get relegated. So I think it was stated he had 16 goals last season for the German second tier side and played well. But I another one of these moves. I think it's a solid move. They needed someone because of course, Martinez's injury, and I think this is a good guy to fill that role until he gets back and going. For the time being, now with him out, they do Martinez out. They do have that extra spot that they're using. Talos Magno, I did want to talk about this. I texted in our group chat. And I was like, I was listening to a podcast and someone mentioned they're like Talos Magno is like back and playing in the preseason with Orlando right now, like actively playing, like not like off to the side training. Like they've stated he's here and like the plan is most likely he's going to stay. That is like I was. I know there's talking about the DP right now, but I was like, I just did not expect to be seeing him in NYCFC colors again because he was an outcast at the end of his time last time. And I know that was different tenure, different coach, and we've kind of moved past that now. But I think it is interesting to see because, I mean, he's still a super talented player. So I'm kind of highlighting two DPs now in this, I guess, in this move because he is kind of like a new DP for this new age NYCFC that he's coming back into. And I think it's good because I think now you've got a striker and you've got now a winger to go alongside that. And this NYCFC attack all of a sudden is now going to look very different than it did last year. And I think it's not necessarily a bad different. I'm interested to see how it all comes together. But I hope for all involved that if Magno is staying, it comes with better attitude and things like that. Because that at the end of his tenure last time, it was really, really butting heads and playing time and how he was being used. And I think he's still a super talented player. I mean, people thought he was going to be going big time at one point in his career. And I hope for him and I hope for NYCFC it all works out. And then I hope for them, of course, Musasia is also coming in and going to score some goals because they need that production with Martinez out.
Yeah, I mean, the Tyus Magno, not to bury the lead. We'll get to Silla in a minute, or Sia, however we're deciding we're going to pronounce that. But the Tyus Magno saga, the lore, is one of the more interesting kind of buried stories in MLS. For every reason you've mentioned, and this is why I'm surprised. And like I said in a group chat, like there's no way he's here for long, in my opinion, because of just how weird and messy it was. And there was so high hopes for him. He was making like the top 10 on 22 under U22. Was really dynamic, fantastic playmaker out wide on the left. And then, like you said, like there was this weird breakdown. Felt like he wasn't really growing at the rate we saw him. It like kind of hit pause, and just weird tensions. And it was like he had to get out, and the loan happened, and that was kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, well, that's like not a loan to buy, but afterwards, they're going to find another place for him. I have a hard time believing it, and maybe that is kind of what you mentioned. The reason why he's back is it's a different regime now, different coach, a chance to redeem himself. All that said, I'm not even sure, and this may sound crazy, but I mean, Hannes Wolf was pretty good at left wing for New York City, just out and out. That might be a battle for that starting spot there, or they figure out how to put both of those two on the field. I don't think Tyus Magno has the left wing spot on lockdown, and he was with Corinthians in Brazil. Hit or miss there too. I think he over his time, I mean, like got 72 appearances, played plenty of minutes. I don't think at any point, or maybe in small spurts, you consider him a 90-minute, player week in and week out. He didn't have that rhythm completely in Brazil either. So it's going to be interesting to see what version of Tyus Magno we get. That's going to really dictate if he's going to be there or not. If he's not starting, though, you got to move him quick. As a designated player,
we're days away from the end of it, and all signs are pointing that they're saying he's staying. So something's got to dramatically change in a couple of days if they want to move him. I mean, I guess they can move him in league. Of course, that could still happen.
I could be wrong, but I think our window closes. Other countries, other leagues, they're still open, so we could still have outbounds. So if he goes overseas or something, then that's still possible. But as far as teams bringing in, there's only a few days left. Yeah. All that to say, we buried the lead.
Well, then they're going with no DP though, so that's like also part of it. Like,
then you go with the two DP for U22, collect some GAM along the way,
but then they don't have a fourth U22 right now. That's what they have to do. So, like if they're going to do something,
you don't need to fill it all out, but you at least collect 1 million GAM. You go for pass and go.
I mean, I guess so. I'm thinking of it from a competitive standpoint, and if they want to truly be competitive, like you're going to want to bring in one of them. So. I don't know. I mean, of course, they can make that move in the summer, and it's probably easier to make the move in the summer because it's not everyone else's middle of the league. So it will be interesting. I from a selfish perspective, want to see him stay because he's an exciting player to watch, and I think they'd find a way to play him all at the same time because I don't think you're keeping him if you're to sit him at that point. So it will be interesting. I hope it all works out, and like we said. Musa Silla, like I hate that we're bearing the lead with him because we don't know much about him. We didn't watch him, but I think it's a move that can complement the rest of the DPs they do have.
And I'll say too, I think the fear with him is that there are times when he has in his career scored a lot of goals, and those have been in League 2 and in Bundesliga 2. Does that translate super well to MLS is the main question. And he was kind of cooling off with Schalke right now. Just this past few months, it doesn't seem like he's really gotten the minutes or found his form. So maybe the change of scenery is good for him. Maybe MLS will be good for him. But man, it'll be interesting to see Alonso Martinez when he comes back, what that all looks like with the DP situation there too. Which may be, going back to that conversation, why they ship out Tyus Magno and then hold on to that open spot because Martinez will be back. We're not sure of that.
Has he been bought down yet?
Who's that?
Or is Martinez still a DP technically?
He's still a DP, yeah.
Okay. I would be interested to know how that all works with how good. I'm not looking at the numbers.
You get an extra $1 million in game if you sit him, and then maybe you can buy down somebody else.
It also depends if he's going to be back at any point. He got hurt so late, so we don't even know if he's going to be back.
That is true. It's going to be a Pooch situation if they figure out if they're making the playoffs or not and they want to activate him. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I did see one, before we move on, one funny story was there was a reporter that was watching their practice session, and they were like, who's that guy? Like, who's that player? Because they couldn't recognize him from a distance, because everyone's used to Tyus having the afro, and he has braids right now. And they were like, who is this guy? And someone was like, oh, it's Tyus. He's like, oh my gosh. He was like, I didn't even realize, like, one, that he was already like practicing back with the team, and two, that he had changed his hairstyle, and it like threw people off, which is funny. But moving on here, we've got some more moves to talk about. We got LA Galaxy officially signing João Klaus to a DP deal. So that is officially DP. His contract expires at the end of the year, so this is why we talked about previously. This move makes sense, because if they do want to keep him, they can renegotiate and not make him a DP at that point, or you can just call it quits at that time. Be like, okay, we're moving on. Puig comes back in, and that DP slot, it all works out. So that just became official. And that a quick little side note, if you have anything you want to put in there.
Yeah, biggest loser here is probably Christian Ramirez.
Oh yeah, big time.
That kills you on the minutes there, especially if you're, like you said, bringing in a DP. I mean, maybe they should have swapped him. He should have gone to St. Louis. I can't believe they didn't do it. But I think with Klaus coming in, one thing that he was strong with at St. Louis, and maybe something that we didn't, get to see because of the team around him and how chaotic things were there, is that similar to Gulavogi, this guy's a chance creator too. Really, it's a big body. Yeah, he's a big-bodied hold-up play guy, and like you said, like I think that could facilitate Peck and Paintsel pretty well, which was maybe one thing that, Galaxy were missing a lot of things in their game last season, but maybe one thing particularly is it kind of felt like you left those wingers on an island. They got the ball and they felt like they had to shoot because that was the only opportunity they were going to get. Peck especially, like just watching him, he would just fire away at crowds because he didn't think he was getting the ball back. So, yeah, go ahead.
One way to work around not having a midfielder that can create for you is just send it deep, and you've got a big guy to get that ball and get it to the wingers even faster. You just skip the midfield.
Correct.
That's going to be the Galaxy strategy.
Now, how this all looks when they're against another team's rest defense, like I think they're going to be great on the counter. But how this all looks, like I'm not sure that I would trust Klaus to be the guy to break down a deep lying line. He's not really that. So that's the tricky part that you wish you still had Puig for. But other than that, I think it's a decent fit. And I'll go out on a limb and say this: I'll power rank the big name signings that Galaxy have gotten. I think I go Klaus at number 1. Glesnes at number 2, and Hack at number 3.
Wow.
That's okay. That's where I'm putting them. So,
yeah, I'm really interested to see what Klaus looks like, because I want to know what was St. Louis over the past few years and what was him.
Yeah,
because I think it's going to be clear as day moving over to the Galaxy. I can see anywhere from Tony this thing flops big time to him being like a 15, 18 goal scorer this season. Like that's the range, and I'm leaning more towards like at least like 12 to 15 goal scorer, because I think just the sheer amount of chances he's going to get because of those wingers is going to be high. So it'll be interesting. I think he'll be entertaining to watch, and I do think the Galaxy are going to be more solid this year than they were last year in terms of competitive standpoint. And why I may have the defense higher is because of how bad that defense was last year. So I think that those signings are pretty important.
They're probably going to improve. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, moving on here. We have an outbound, Jason Russell Rowe, leaving Columbus, going to Toulouse for $2.5 million outbound transfer. Just great. I'll give him credit. Just great business from Columbus. This is a guy who I think they had hoped was going to be more than what he was last year, especially after Acucho left. Never really saw that for consistent periods with Columbus. And a guy who's now your backup striker, getting $2.5 million for a backup striker, Tony, you don't turn that down. And I think that's just what it came down to. I think they would have loved to keep him for a depth, but I think that at that number, you just got to tell yourself, would we buy? I think I heard on a different podcast someone say, would we buy Jason Russell Rowe for $2.5 million? No, we wouldn't. So that's why we should sell him for $2.5 million and get him out of here. And I think it'll be good for him. I think he'll get more playing time in Toulouse, and I think it's good for Columbus just to get some money in for a guy that isn't necessarily going to play every single game.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting move too that he generated that kind of interest overseas to a League One team like that, right? They're not League Two anymore; they're League One. Yeah. Again, man, this was just we should have brushed up on our League One trivia before we did this.
Yeah.
But all that to say, I mean,
they're in eighth in League One. Yeah.
Okay, we're good. Okay. All this to say, like, this was a guy that when Cucho was on this team, Wilfred Nancy would go out and make comments about Jason Russell Rowe, saying like he's our best natural finisher on this team. Like, so when Cucho left, I think you put it well. There was a lot of expectation on Jason Russell Rowe to maybe not exactly fill those shoes, but to become that point guy up top. And that was one of really the Crew's biggest weaknesses last season is they'd have games where they'd put up 30 shots and get 4 of those on target. And not saying that's solely Jason Russell Rowe's fault, but does feel like maybe the trajectory that they hoped he was on is not that. And moving him on and getting that value, like you said, is the smart thing. Does it leave a little bit of a gap for them behind Abu Ali? Yes. But I'm sure that's something that can get filled, like you said, interleague, or that could be a U22 spot or something as well. As if you find someone young and upcoming that you want to give a roll of the dice. I mean, Abu Ali, coming off of injury, not sure how much you can trust him exactly. So it's kind of like your backup quarterback. It's an insurance policy, right? To make sure that it's like a rainy day fund. So all that to say, it's a smart move from the Crew. Wish Jason Russell Rowe the best. Also, I don't know if you saw this, a little bit of trivia or pop culture for you. Abu Ali was at the he was at the Cavs game, and he was behind LeBron. He was behind LeBron. You can see him in the trivia. Yeah.
It was actually because I'm from Cleveland, so I was watching I always watch a Cavs game when LeBron's playing against them just because of the memories. Thank you for my championship, LeBron. And I'm watching the game. I swear to you, it wasn't even a bully. I'm sitting there, and I turn it on. Within 15 seconds of me watching this game, I see Morera sitting in the background. I was like, why is Morera like sitting courtside next to LeBron James? Right, like he was like right next to him, and I was like, I didn't even see Abu Ali. I was like, why is Morera back there? And I was like, I'm probably one of like 4 people that are watching this game right now that were sitting there and was like, oh, look, it's Morera, dude. Like, right, and like I literally said out loud, and Emily was like, my wife was like, what are you talking about? I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, that is deep cut right there. And then I saw a tweet after, and they like had the Abu Ali and Morera come on the court, and they were throwing T-shirts to people and stuff, and it was funny. I was like,
it follows you.
I'm like the only person on LeBron's like homecoming night to be like, oh my God! Yeah. That's Columbus Crew right there.
Move aside, LeBron.
LeBron. That's a World Cup player sitting right next to you.
Yeah, look out, man. Yeah, Club World Cup hero. That's it right there.
Yeah.
I went to the Blue Jackets game last night with my family, and the Eric Rydstrom was actually at the game. They gave him a minute as well. He was with a few guys.
Nice.
Which I think future brother-in-law, he's a big Blue Jackets fan. We kind of went with him, and he's telling me all this stuff because I don't really keep up on hockey. And he was giving me all the parallels with the Crew, and be like, he just yell at defender and be like, this guy's so Rudy Camacho coded, and like just like the parallel. I'm like, oh my gosh, and like I don't know, it was just it's a whole nother world. These other sports.
When you're MLS sickos like us, we see things differently. We see things differently. Yeah. But okay, let's get. I don't even know where we were.
Let's get
back on track here. We'll move on to that next one. Congrats to Russell Rowe for getting the move. Congrats to Columbus for getting that money for backup striker. Next bombshell, Tony, that came out this week. I think this is the second biggest story besides Freeman. Chicho Arango, a guy that's not afraid to be a part of a bombshell story, Tony. Let me tell you that. He, the San Jose striker, formerly known as San Jose striker, Chicho Arango, it just came out of nowhere. So Tom reports that he wanted out, and I think within like an hour of him reporting that, it was like he's been sold. It was quoted as personal reasons that he wanted to leave. So there hasn't been much, I think, reported outside of that. I mean, really tough blow for San Jose. Not much time to really figure out a plan to replace him. Of course, they've got Timo Werner, who became official today, coming in. But that was supposed to be like your 1-2. And now all of a sudden, I know me and you probably have a ton of questions on what San Jose is now going to be this year. And it's a guy you're building around, and now he's just gone overnight, basically. It's not like he's not had drama like this before and just kind of vanished out of thin air. And it's weird. I mean, he was just on social media like a week and a half ago asking fans what number he should be this season. Like, should I be 9 or 10? And it's like,
oh, I didn't see that.
It was, dude, he like made a poll on social media like a week ago asking if he should be number 9 or 10. Like, and I think it just leaves a lot of people really confused on like what's happened in a week, that you've just made this dramatic change and you're trying to move on. And I mean, I feel bad for San Jose fans. I mean, that was like peak San Jose. You went from like the high of like, we're getting Timo Werner, we never get guys like this, to, our other star player just left overnight because of personal reasons. And I think it's just a gut punch and probably takes a little air out of the balloon heading in now into a season you're feeling pretty optimistic about.
Yeah, that's a good metaphor there. I do think it feels like San Jose is kind of like the pipe with a bunch of holes in it, and you can like only plug so many, but then they get another one, you got to take your finger off.
Yeah, you're like,
like it just, it nothing can stay in place. So that does really bite for them. That would have been an exciting punch. I think that would have been an exciting punch for the league as a whole. Like, I think that stinks for everybody. That being said, and like you said, there has been personality stuff, and he's gotten suspended internally, and we've never heard explanations, and that's kept him out of all-star games, and all that stuff that's pretty wild. We may never know what went down there. What's left at San Jose now is that this offseason you get Timo Werner, you lose Christian Espinoza, you lose Chicho Arango.
It's all your creativity.
The math ain't mathing still. Yeah. That's just not it. So you got now a few days left in this window. You need a winger / playmaker, maybe like a number 10 you play underneath, because you can maybe give a little bit of responsibility to DeJuan Jones. He's been doing somewhat well in San Jose under reuniting with his coach Bruce Arena there. But like,
I've got a name for you.
Okay.
Keep going. I'll say it after you finish.
Well, I'm pretty much wrapping up. Right now, this 1-2 punch went from Chicho Arango and Timo Werner to now Preston Judd and Timo Werner, which, like, I'm not trying to. Let me get this straight. That's not Preston Judd slander. Honestly, when I saw his name when we were talking about this, I was looking and saying, that might not be a bad number 2 choice for Columbus, is Preston Judd. But I think that like he's a guy that you can trust with an occasional start, and like
but he's not a leisure line,
right. But now he's your main man next to Timo Werner is my guess. So PJ, please give me the name. Who can fix San Jose?
Can I interest you in Chucky Lozano, Tony?
Oh my! He's not moving far. Is that what it is?
Could you imagine? That would be so awesome. I like, not even from a San Jose perspective. I'm saying from an MLS drama perspective, that'd be awesome. I would love that so much. One, you get a move that he's not really going very far. For one, he's just a quick drive, honestly, for him. So you're getting that, and then you're still keeping him in the league. I don't know if they're gonna go for the same style of like drama-filled player. Let's bring in another one to replace the one we had.
Yeah,
but
right, exactly.
I mean, I don't know, man. That's the type of move I'm fine with that kind of move. If you can get San Diego to eat like almost all of that and just take like, hey, like we need a DP, we got a TB slot open randomly, let's take a shot. That's the one name I'm like, that's out there that I'm like, you could plausibly move for. So I'm just putting that out there. If we're gonna do PJ predictions here, like that's a name I'm like, that's when you really think about it, it kind of fills what they need in terms of like a player creator and the guy who can go one-on-one. But
I don't know. But I mean, speaking of reporters peeking in at trainings and getting pictures, there was a picture of Chucky Lozano at San Diego training. He was out there with the guys.
whoa,
So
I thought
yeah,
I saw that he wasn't. Oh, he wasn't on the roster for the first game, like their first
got it.
preseason game.
No, I just saw a picture of him out there, and
Ooh.
people were like, "What?"
That wasn't with
But I
U21
don't
or
know
anything?
about the fit here. I mean, like as a winger, this is a team in San Jose that at least last season, and I don't know, maybe they'll change because there's no Espinoza, but like aren't really using our wingers. They're going wing backs in that setup. So
Throw him a striker.
Lozano being out wide would have to have defensive responsibilities in the current setup, which I don't think you want that, unless
Give
or
me
you
a
play him out of
Timo
position as a
Werner.
10.
Give me a Timo Werner, Chucky Lozano, striker partnership up top. Just balls to the wall. Just give it to me. It would
so
be beautiful.
Gross.
But it would be so San Jose.
It'd be so MLS.
It would be also the most anti-Bruce Arena thing of all time. So I don't think it's going to happen. But just putting it out there. Okay, we'll move on. San Jose fans, we're with you. We feel bad for you. Let's hope that we can get someone in the door before this window closes. Cole Bassett is going from Colorado to Portland. A move Portland needed with the move they made with Ajala earlier. So I think this is a need for them. They need a box-to-box guy. I think Cole Bassett fills that role. I think that I don't know how much you can. I like Cole Bassett. I'm just not in love with Cole Bassett as a fan, as someone who watches him personally. I think there's some left to be desired when watching him for me. So, but I think he fills a void. I think it's a solid move, and if he's going to do the job, it's just how great of a job at times. So I think it's good business for Portland.
Yeah, and you fill a role that you gave away. I think net you're making money on that, and you're only using a U22 on this as well with Cole Bassett because you're absorbing the deal that he signed with Colorado. So I think that it is a nice move. It's solid, proven MLS play. Like any of the Colorado struggles weren't really revolved around Bassett. I think, like you said, he's a pretty steady stalwart as a number 8. He's not a Rodrigo DePaul. He's not going to drop your jaw when you're watching him. But I think he does a lot of the dirty work that goes unnoticed. Where his numbers really stand out is that he's a good ball maintainer. Just in terms of touches, he's able to hold on to the ball really well, which is something that I think I'd like for this Portland team, especially when you're talking about, okay, who are they going to have up top now? But starting 3 of Velde, who is one of the better DPs in this league quietly on the left, probably Kevin Kelsey starting at striker up top, and then Anthony on the right. All these guys, I don't think that Portland fans would tell you they have really any issues with. Like that's an attacking trio that they'd be happy with. And I think a lot of MLS teams would like to pick off a piece or two of that. Like that's a good trio. So to have some stability, which this Portland team needs desperately, I still want to see them get a little bit more solid in defense because that was their Achilles heel and why I jumped off their boat really early last year. But I think just being able to maintain possession is something that at times I think for fans, especially if you're not really used to watching teams, like it just goes so underrated. Like, yeah, that can kind of slow the game down and be boring, but that's what keeps you in control of a game. And I think that's what he brings to Portland.
Okay, moving on here, we will go to the Pepe deal and that drama that's unfolding. So earlier this year, it was reported that Fulham was making a move to sign Pepe from PSV. They turned it down at the time, and now it's really picked back up. It has not officially happened. Doesn't sound like they're far off from a deal here, and right in the $30-ish million range of a fee for him to go from PSV to Fulham. Pretty cool. I mean, just objectively cool. That would be to see. I mean, of course, USA has had a lot of talent go to Fulham over the years, and they've got, of course, Robinson there right now, which I think would be good for Pepe to have a guy like that in the Premier League as soon as you jump. It's interesting to know how much playing time he would get because, I mean, they're making this move as a guy knowing that he's injured, one. So that makes it feel like it's a long-term type of signing. Like, we want this guy for like a longer stay. We're not worried about like the here and now. And I think for Pepe, it's pretty crazy to see. I mean, we've watched his career fully. Like we have watched it begin in Dallas and go to Augsburg and kind of fail first in the Bundesliga. Go to the Netherlands is kind of like a fall down, and then succeed so well. He makes the move to PSV, and now is getting the move to Fulham to the Premier League. It's crazy, and it's crazy to think that this is a guy we were discussing last week that was potentially on the outs for the U.S. men's national team roster, and to a degree, or just at least even making an impact if he's even on the roster. And it's a guy who's making a move to go to the Premier League right now. Like that's the depth that the U.S. has currently in all positions, and it's cool to see for him. And I'd be interested to see how it would translate because he's just, when he is healthy, he's scoring goals like a madman for clubs. So it would be cool to see. I think it'd be cool to have Robinson there, and of course a couple other guys in the Premier League that can make that adjustment a little bit easier.
Yeah, I hope that this is the right step for him. Like Bundesliga was maybe a little bit too much too soon, in that jump, and it feels like now he's got his feet under him. He was scoring in Champions League games. Like it's not like, oh, okay, it's Mickey Mouse League and Eredivisie. There's still good opponents there, and he's playing European competition, and I think that's why Fulham has the confidence to put that kind of money in the number, to have him over. And I think you bring up a good point that I don't know how often you see these kind of deals where, yeah, this guy's hurt and he's not going to be ready to go for a little while, but yeah, you can have him. We'll drop 8 figures on this guy. And maybe I don't know, maybe Fulham's looking at it like, okay, maybe we can knock a few percentage points off this fee because he's hurt right now. The leverage for them is a little bit lower. Maybe that's part of the real, deal as well. I don't know, but yeah, it'd be really cool to see him go to Premier League now. It seems like he's ready for that jump. It seems like it's just different than Augsburg in the way that you're not going from Dallas in MLS to jump in Bundesliga. Like it's now you've been around a little bit. You've played for different teams now. You've played for different systems now, and this could be the time that you make the jump to a Premier League. So. I hope that goes through. It seems like it's pretty legit, or they're pretty close on it. And I think that this is I've mentioned on here time and time again, I don't want Wes McKennie to go to MLS, so I'm not sure about this move or that move. I think Pepe is the right lab rat for something like this too, where we've got our backups, right? We got Balogun. We feel set here. This is one where it's like, okay, you're fourth, maybe third, maybe second string striker going to Premier League. Let's see if it sticks. Let's see if it hits. I like that because I think the potential for that, especially even beyond. I mean, we're still talking about 23-year-old Ricardo Pepi. What about the 2030 World Cup?
Yeah.
If he's playing, really well in Premier League, the ceiling just seems like it goes way up. So, that's what's exciting about that. That's why I like this move for him and just where he's at in his career. And, if it goes wrong, well, we've also seen him land on his feet again when it doesn't go right. So I like this for him, and I hope it goes through.
Yeah. Fulham's, of course, got CONCACAF all over that roster. I think they're okay with him being injured currently because they've got Raul Jimenez, who's, of course, Mexico striker, sitting there playing currently. And I think his deal expires after the year, if I'm not mistaken. So I think this is a type of move where they're saying, "Hey, we've got this guy in place. Like, we don't necessarily need you to come in and make an impact right now, and we want you for the longer term," which I think is a perfect idea and system for him. So, and honestly fits the mold of how they play with a lot of crosses in like that. That is, Pepe can be that guy if you need him to be. So I think it's a good move for him. Moving on here, we've got some more USA performances. We had the Champions League system where all 18 games were played at one time at 3 p.m. on Wednesday. And, of course, that created its own drama. And I personally am a fan of the new system, so it was fun to have that all going off at once. If you're a FOTMob user or any notification user of an app that covers Champions League, it was buzzing like crazy because the first 10 minutes of the games, I think there were 15 goals. It was nuts. One of those notifications coming through was for Malik Tillman, who played, of course, for Leverkusen, and they moved on to the next round. Malik Tillman had a brace in the first half of that game. He had his first goal was funny. Keeper was playing with his food, and he just pressed really hard, stepped in, got the deflection off his boot, and went in the back of the net. The second goal was a beauty of a shot. It was a cross thing that was headed out, kind of bounced towards him well outside the box, and he hit it on one time and right into the bottom corner. And
yeah,
beautiful shot. Malik Tillman continues now that he's back healthy, which is awesome to see. He continues just to perform every single time for Leverkusen, and he's putting his name back in there where you're like, how do you keep this guy off the field? And I think right now, if you were to poll most fans, I think you're having Malik Tillman in one of those cam spots in our current system starting. And that's how well he's played. I know Gio Reyna is another name that a lot of people like to say, but the dude doesn't perform for club, and I know he performs for country, but Malik Tillman's done both. He's performed for club and he's performed for country, and I think he adds a different element to this team that is proven and that can really go another level still in his career. I mean, I think he's another guy. Is he still only like 22 or 23 at this point?
23.
Like, there are so many guys all over the place that can go another level that are already playing at big clubs. And I think that's what's exciting about this generation is they're the first generation to really be scattered all over the place in terms of playing at bigger clubs at such a young age. So I feel great about him right now. I think come March, I think he's going to be starting for that team in March. And I think it's going to be him and Pulisic. They're going to be playing those two cam spots in that system that we have going right now.
Yeah, and the greater context to Malik Tillman and just really what 2025 was and kind of what 2026 hopefully is shaping into is, he was playing for PSV and got picked up by Bayer Leverkusen to be the Florian Wirtz replacement.
Yeah.
Huge shoes to fill. And, obviously not like for like, but he's holding his own in the Bundesliga, which, there's another player that went from kind of that middle tier European league to now a Big Five and seems to be holding his own and doing well in Champions League. They're square in the knockout rounds. Bayer Leverkusen is. So this is just one of those things where, this is a player that we're seeing another different, unique pathway for our Americans to break in to different corners of Europe and to high corners in Europe. So it is exciting for him seeing that goal. Like you said, that second goal was a thing of beauty, and the way he kind of like wraps his foot through it so it has that curl on it. Like, I mean, it's delicious. But he is one that has been kind of like Alex Freeman, taking a big jump this year, and seems to be like every challenge that has been put in front of him. I wouldn't say he's necessarily passed with flying colors, but he's not failing. He's holding his own. He's staying in there. And that in its own right is very impressive and should be awarded because, as much as, maybe we like to talk about it or don't like to talk about it, like there is a country bias when it comes to, coaches and players, and like Americans sometimes get written off quicker than other, like, maybe a Brazilian would. At that level. That's just kind of the nature of what it is and the pedigree of where you come from. So to be able to stay up there, stay afloat, and find moments where you're even thriving, I think is huge for Malik Tillman and his trajectory, as well as, what his summer is going to look like, which I agree with you. I think he's on the roster for sure. And, depending on how we line up, potentially breaks into that starting 11 as well. I mean, he was crucial for a lot of the national team games, especially over the summer in the competitions we were in. So I think it's very believable. He's got familiarity with his camp, with the coach, and he's doing great at a club level, at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, there were many games in that stretch in the summer where people were coming out of the game going, the best player on the field in that game was Malik Tillman in terms of chance creation and what he was doing for the people around him. So I think it's exciting. I think it's cool to start seeing some of these guys really just take their chance. Like they're seeing the opportunity in front of them during this 3-month window here, this beginning of this year, and saying, "This is my last chance to get on this March roster and make my impact." And he's one of those guys that, in my mind, is just a no-brainer. Talent and what he can do on the field, you gotta have him out there. So
Right.
another guy that plays in that similar position and has continued to perform for club level is Brendan Aronson. I mean, he comes out of every game, and there's people on social media. I made a post on social media about it with some tweets where there's people like that aren't Americans, like you said, that bias. Like there's fans that aren't Americans in England of not his team that are coming out of games watching that he played in, going, he was the best player like on the field during that game, and maybe not just pure technicality wise, he's not like maybe the purest player on the field, but what he does is he makes up for it in effort. And
Yeah.
I think that's the tool that the US is going to love having on their team, and is a game where you need a guy to help see out the end of a game or go get you a goal at the end of a game and help be an impact in that way. I think that's his role on this team, and he does it for Leeds. I think there was a game he had a goal and assist, and there's a clip in like the 93rd minute. I mean, he's working as an attacker in the 93rd minute. He's played the whole game, done so much, working all the way back and making the interception to save the game in the box at the end. Like that's just the energizer bunny he is. And that's the impact you can have. And if you're a guy like him who's fringe, you've got to be able to play that way to make a roster. Like you've got to make an impact in another way than that's just I score goals or I have assists every so often. It's got to be what else can I do? And for him, it's his ability to press the ball and his ability to do it for 90 minutes, honestly. And I think that's what people are noticing in England. I think it's cool to see him doing this on a Leeds team that isn't going to be relegated as of now. Like it's a team that is outperforming expectations, and he's at the forefront of that for Leeds right now.
Yeah, I think that. Well, I mean, yeah, his rise right now has been meteoric, and we do. I don't want to like cheapen this at all, but I feel like we get this out of him like once every 18 months, where he gets red hot for like a month or two, and then kind of falls back down, or team gets relegated, or whatever. We've seen him move around, but I don't want to take that away from celebrating like what he's done right now, and the Premier League and the Leeds fans rallying behind him, and him saying like I want to be a Leeds legend, like I want to stay here, this is my home. Those things that's I think that's good for him, that's good for the national team. And I think a perspective that we need to hold, especially with Aronson in mind when it comes to what that World Cup roster looks like, is sure he may not be a starting 11 player, but from Poch's mind, or really, you could put yourself in the coach's shoes and say, okay, if I know that this guy is not going to be like a starting 11 player, what do I need out of him? And that's like the intangibles. That's the locker room presence. That's the effort that you were mentioning. Like, what would make a lot of guys better is if they have to train with that kind of effort, like against that effort in Brendan Aronson, like throughout the camp and keep him sharp. Like those kind of things, like that, we're not going to see on Saturday afternoons, right? But the value that brings into the camp and getting everyone else like that's where I could really see an intangible like that taking Brendan Aronson to the World Cup this year.
Yeah, I think it's like I said. I think he's if this is just a hot streak, he's doing it at the right time. Like that, this is all it takes for you to get on the World Cup roster. So I think it's good timing, and hopefully he keeps it up, and Leeds keeps it up, and he can keep playing the Premier League. A couple things here from Poch. So they had a press conference today, so he answered a lot of questions. A couple of things that I wanted to highlight really quick. I don't know how much time I'm going to spend on it. They asked him about Tim Weah speaking out about the ticket prices, and I don't have the exact quote, but basically along the lines, he responded, he was like, Tim should focus on the field matters and let them handle the off the field matters. And I think the reaction initially is a lot of people saying that's a little out of touch. That response, I think these athletes have the platform to voice that opinion, and that the regular fan does not, so they can help speak for that and point to that. So I don't think we should encourage them to not use that platform, especially in the way that Tim Weah did. I also see probably from Poch's perspective where he's like, I got to make the FIFA people happy, and I've got to make we're the country hosting, so I can't really just bash the FIFA Federation. So I see why, but I mean, I think it's going to be a nothing story here in about a week. I think it's just something people are going to really go after here in the short term.
Yeah, I mean, his response feels pretty PR trained, kind of like what we were saying. Like that's just what you have to say because that's where the money's coming from right now. So you got to protect that. From Weah's side, I agree with you. I think that's one of those matters that like that's kind of up to the player if they want to take on or not. Most will not, and that is what it is. I can understand both sides of that because I think from Weah's side, like or at least I hope that comes from a heart of like, oh yeah, I want to do this for the fans, and the fans are having a hard time getting there. Like he wants to be a man of the people kind of thing, and that's why he's making that kind of comment. So I get that, like trying to resonate, with your crowd. The other side of it though is like, yeah, you do have to understand the moment a little bit in your place, and maybe it was poor warding, but like I could see it kind of being like Potch saying to Tim, like text, like, hey, focus on like what you can control kind of thing. Not so much like you don't have room to talk here, but like, yeah, you're not adjusting the prices. You're wasting your energy on this kind of thing. Maybe that's a little bit more what it was meant, but I agree with you. You could take a couple different interpretations either way. It's nothing that's going to shatter the ground here. It'll probably blow over. So,
yeah. Well, and last thing, before we go, he did clearly state his quote was the March is the beginning of the World Cup. Like that's the seriousness they're taking with this camp. So I think that alone just builds some anticipation, and we've talked about it plenty throughout this podcast. Is we're really excited to see what that roster looks like, how it's going to be used, because I think it's going to be very telling. I think it's going to show who Poch is favoring in the current moment, and these guys' performances are going to matter in these set of games. And I think every single one of those players is going to be itching to get the call and itching to perform and get playing time in these games. I'm interested to see how he balances these games and who's going to play in what game, because I think that this is the last chance for all these guys to play. So I think he's going to let them all play, and how that's spread out between the games is going to be interesting to watch. But I think we're just sitting here, and I'm not wishing away club play, but there is part of me that's like, just get me through February. Like I just want to be at this March camp. I want to see who's on this roster, and I want to know who's going to be representing the USA in the World Cup.
Yeah, it is kind of funny because you talk about like what you're excited for coming up. Like I think I'm excited for like weeks 1 through 3 of MLS, just to see like how everybody comes out, what the new teams look like, all of that. And then it's like, all right, let's skip to the March camp. And then after that, it's like, okay, now we're in the home stretch of all the European competitions and the leagues and stuff. So then that gets exciting again, and then we roll right into the World Cup, which is, I mean, like that, the momentum, the snowball that we're going to have that's going to start with this March window is just going to be,
I mean,
unstoppable.
You're gonna see in April, May, like the publicity and the sheer amount of people that are gonna start coming into the country just to cover the World Cup, and everything that's gonna be being built around in these cities and everything that's going on. I mean, it's just gonna be a top news story at all times. And if you live in a city where this is happening, it's gonna be transforming your city to a degree, and you're gonna see people prepping for that. And I think it's just exciting. I mean, I think for even small business owners, restaurant owners, things like that, these people that are going to be greatly affected by what's going on in the World Cup, it is going to be really exciting to see that covered. Of course, we're not going to be blind to the fact of what's going on in our country completely. And I hope that the people that are choosing to travel to the U.S., like it's smooth and the process goes well, because I know there's been like the soft travel bans and things like that. So I hope that stuff doesn't take away too much from the World Cup. I think that stuff matters, but I hope that as soccer does quite a bit, it unites. I hope that the World Cup can be something that can kind of unite everybody a little bit, at least for that month. And I have no fear of anything being canceled or people not competing. I think it's going to end up happening and going great. I just want it to be that way.
Yeah, for sure. And whenever you have things like of this stage, right, there's so many eyes there's so much going on, and I'm not just talking in a sporting sense, like, monetary sense, political sense, all of that. People say it's just a sport, like the shut up and dribble, right? But in reality, because it involves people, it inherently also involves like some of these politic things. So yeah, like I share that same sentiment with you that hopefully like things get cleared up here, that we as a country can like be like a great host for this thing. Like I'd love to have another World Cup in my lifetime here, and that starts with setting a good example with that, and just being a good host to all the countries and all. I mean, the travel like inbound, like you said, is just going to be ridiculous, and how that's going to transform cities, and all the people getting to see and just enjoy like all the different facilities and stuff that we have. I mean, think about just all the different teams, just the teams alone, all the different hotels that they're going to take up, all the different training grounds from MLS teams and down, like USL teams even are hosting smaller countries, like all of that. Like so many people are coming into this country. This is really putting us in the world stage. So I do share that sentiment that is something that like makes America, look good and unites, everybody in the world around the focal point of like, here we are in the United States. So
Yeah, beauty of the World Cup is the diversity and that it brings, and all the different types of people from all different walks of life. So it'll be cool to see that in the USA. Quick shout out to Minnesota and what they're going through. I think that's all part of it, and we hope for better times here soon. And I also am excited to see kind of the pitch. When I say pitch, I mean like the presentation that the U.S. has for some of these teams, because it is kind of a recruiting pitch in a sense of like, these players that are coming to the World Cup. Some of them are probably going to be bought by MLS teams because of the World Cup, because of the publicity and what they can bring in ticket sales wise and talent wise onto the field. And I think it'll be cool to see how that all of this kind of plays into that, and how some people may be impressed because the facilities are so nice in the United States, and what comes with playing in the United States. And I hope that this all goes well, and I think it will. I think we'll be excited to watch it and be in bars for a month straight, just watching some footy. So
yeah.
With that being said, we will wrap things up here. We've held you long enough. We appreciate you listening in. Remember to follow us on all of the socials. We'll be posting there and ramping things up still as the MLS season is quickly approaching, Tony. I think we're a month. I think real games are like 28 days away, something like that.
Less than
Maybe
that,
not
I
even.
think. Yeah.
I think it's like 24 or something. Whatever. It's close, and we're ready for it. We're excited, and hopefully we can see FC Cincinnati win an MLS Cup. That's all we care about.
Yeah. And we should plug too. We should plug FC United as well.
Oh yes, yes. Thank you for the reminder. So there is a new fantasy app called, and I'll probably cut this and edit this one, make it a little social media post. A new fantasy app that is coming out called Fantasy United, and it is similar to the MLS fantasy system. So if you've played MLS fantasy, we've talked about it on the podcast before. It is going to function similar, but also different. It's a new app. I think a lot of people have gripes with the MLS fantasy app at times, and I think it's cool to see another app coming into this space. And they're actually only doing MLS fantasy right away. Like that's the first thing they're doing. So if you're MLS fantasy guru, this is the time to join in and join our league. We actually have our own fan zone in there, so we're one of the big boys now, Tony. We've got a sponsored area, Talkin Pitch Side. Feel free to join that. There's a bunch of other podcasts in there if you want to listen and hear about more teams and other people. So go in there, check them out. If you go in our fan zone, you can join that, and you got to join our league, and we'll make sure to provide updates as we get closer, because that's going to be the primary league we're working out of this year. And I think we're going to get behind this app, and there may be some bugs along the way, but we have full faith that they're going to figure this out, and they're going to do a World Cup fantasy as well. So we'll make sure we do something with that as well, because I think that'll be fun.
Yeah.
So yes, Fantasy United, download it. It's on the App Store. It's free. You can join our league for free. We're not doing any buy-in or anything. This is all just all of us to compete with each other. I don't think we've decided if we're doing playoffs or not yet, so I need to figure that out, because they do a playoff system in this app if we want to do it. That's
Sounds
what's
kind of
different.
crazy. Yeah, well, I assume we have to decide before we start, right?
Yeah, we've got. Let me see. Let
we
me
got
pull
20
this up.
some days, but
Let me see the official countdown. We've already got 8 people in here, so we've got 8 people in our league. We'd love to get that to. I mean, we had a lot of people in the league last year.
yeah.
22 days until the season starts. By the way, so you got 22 days to get in there, lock your lineup. It's gonna be a bidding system, so you got a budget. We'll get into it as we get closer, but thank you for the reminder. Quick shout out, Fantasy United. They did a great job of working with us, getting our podcast in there, and we appreciate them for doing that. So we will offer more updates soon. And any other final notes on that, Tony, before we head off here?
Nope. We're just ready to get back to it.
Yeah. Let's
So,
dominate
that's
this
it.
app.
That's it.
We couldn't dominate the other one. We had to change apps, and
Yeah,
hopefully we'll be
exactly.
better at this
Right,
one.
right. We're just gonna outbid people.
Yeah, exactly. But should be cool. We will see you guys next Friday. I think. I mean, I haven't talked to Tony about it, but I think we're gonna have to be starting 2 podcasts here soon.
Yeah,
I
we're
would
getting
like to do
close.
it. Yeah, a couple weeks here, probably 2 weeks away. So, be on the lookout for that. But we will see you guys next Friday with another episode of Talking Pitch Side. In the meantime, follow the socials.
See ya.